Good morning, Facebook. How's everybody doing today? So, I wanted to jump on. I know a lot of people have a little bit of trouble with this, and especially how can we explain it and when does it actually apply? Um, so, I'm talking about CBD, water soluble versus a non water soluble. What does that mean? And how can we use it to better serve our customers? Or if you are someone who's using the product, how can you pick the right one to better serve yourself? Um, that's more for what the video I'm doing today, but everyone who does uh, vend these types of products, it's good to understand your product at a level that you can pivot and change the direction that you need to depending upon what the customer's needs are. But anyways, let me go ahead and introduce myself. My name is John Sanchez. I do own Enchanted Consulting. And as far as what we are doing here, what we provide is the ability to make the hemp products that you are creating and selling as profitable as possible. And really to invest your customers into what you are doing based off the knowledge that you have and the compassion that you're able to express from what you have experienced with these products. So, what is water soluble? First of all, there's a few different approaches to water solubility when it comes to phytocannabinoids. There's a nano emulsification, and this is that nanotechnology that sometimes you'll see. Then there is a liposome technology. And then there is a particular kind of powderization that allows it to, and it's usually an isolate, and that allows it to become water soluble. It increases the water solubility of the powder itself. That product is, there's many companies still developing that style product, and there are some out there, but I feel that one's changing things a little too much. But anyways, so the most common is going to be your nano-emulsified or your liposome product. There is one or two, now there's going to be actually quite a bit more products that are going to be the acidic versions of these cannabinoids, and I'll touch on that in a minute. But nano-emulsification, you put it into an emulsifier bath, right? And the oil or whatever solution you're attempting to emulsify. Sometimes they're using this when they make the waters, but it doesn't seem to work so well that way. So they have the emulsifiers going. It's a electric, like, it's hard to explain. It's a little bath that sends electric current through it, through the solution, and you have your carrier, your CBD, and then usually it's some sort of lecithin that's going to help bond to the CBD and hold everything together in the emulsification. Usually these types of products are white. They're very opaque, and they're usually kind of like thick. They're not too liquidy. They're kind of thick because they're emulsified. It's basically like a mayonnaise that they are able to electrify the solution to get the fat molecules to suspend within the solution, and so it's more like mayonnaise in that how it's getting there. But it tends to not be as absorbable as like a liposome product. It doesn't have the same delivery method, so it kind of just absorbs the normal way through the system, but it is a bit more water soluble, so it does absorb a bit quicker. But I've noticed those products that when they're in a drink or I mean, they're usually not very tasty. Like they'll sell them in bottles, and they're usually not very tasty. They tend to have a very odd flavor to them because of the lecithin. Usually you'll mix it with water or some sort of liquid, and it still is going to have a very odd flavor. Um, but it's going to have a slightly better absorption rate than if you had a like edible product that you were just eating and putting into your stomach. It's going to have a slightly higher absorption rate than that, but not much, I would imagine. You're going to gain more from using a sublingual oil and taking it accurately than you probably would from a nano emulsified product. It's kind of when these nano product or nano emulsified or nanotechnology type products first came out, it was a little bit in its infancy of the industry, so they utilized this really simple method to do that. But then the next step forward in that evolution has been the liposome type products. Now, liposomes and exosomes are how our bodies actually communicate, and it's a phospholipid bilayer. Basically, it's how our cells are put together. There's a thin layer of the lecithin encapsulating a water-based solution, and within that matrix of the lecithin around the encapsulation, CBD is held in that matrix. It's not necessarily held inside the encapsulation. Some would lead you to believe that. They would lead you to believe that the CBD is actually encapsulated inside the liposome. That is not quite the case. It's actually encapsulated in the thin phospholipid bilayer that's encapsulating the liposome. The oil is trapped inside the fat cage that these phospholipids are creating and allowing it to maintain water solubility, because it's working a lot like soap, where one side's bonding to the fat and the other side's bonding to the alkalinity in the water-based solution, and we're holding the encapsulation. Now, that way is going to be the most effective as far as these water-soluble solutions, the things that they've made that have water solubility, because you could actually do a full spectrum product that way. And there are products on the market that are full spectrum that are utilizing this liposome type technology. Some are doing it much better than others, and it's definitely worth keeping an eye out. If you're buying your product inside a store, most likely you're not going to run into some of those products. A lot of them are through direct sales type businesses. I'm not going to really be naming any product names because this is going into a place where there's a lot of different products being shared, so more of just explaining what's going on there. That liposome, when it's small enough, the larger the liposome, the less complicated the process. The liposomes are much larger, so you'll actually have an opaque solution. As it becomes smaller in the liposome size, that solution is less and less opaque. And there's some of them out there that are near clear because of the encapsulation and how they got it to work out. And it's small enough to where you can't really see it, but maybe a little yellowing in the solution. But those encapsulations work a little bit different than the regular water solubility, because they actually bond to the cell walls and then release their payload into the cell, and not necessarily just through osmosis getting drawn in. It actually releases the payload as it begins to bond with the cell. So that is a very quick way to get CBD into the system very quickly. It tends to work a lot faster than other methods. So taking one step further and using a little bit of science and things that we understand, there's actually water, whether people are trying to claim compatible or water soluble, water It's more water soluble than the liposomes because those are actually within solution. These guys are actually water soluble because there's a Swedish study that happened a few years ago that kind of pointed this out. They were testing hemp tea. Their hemp, like it's very popular in Europe to put the hemp material into tea and steep it with your tea. And they were curious on what if there was any CBD actually coming out into the water solution. They did a few different steeps, a few different temperatures, a few different times, and then they tested the water after the steeps to see what had come in. And they had found that not very much actual CBD or THC or any of the non-acidic versions of the cannabinoids had entered the water, but that all of these other acidic versions of the cannabinoids had entered the water. And so they concluded that the acidic versions of the cannabinoids, through their research, is about 3.7 times more water soluble than the non-acidic versions of the cannabinoids. You can tell by test results whether or not these products have the acidic versions or the non-acidic versions of these cannabinoids. Right now, there is one particular product that stands out right now. But their method is actually getting utilized in many different products and actually will start to no longer be just that one product that's doing it this way. But it is a particular kind of method that we use to extract the non-acidic or the acidic versions of these cannabinoids, and to get them to not convert through time or heat is a little bit difficult, and it does take some additives to get that done. So it's something else to keep in mind. And really the kind of takeaway from all of this water solubility stuff is it is going to take some additives to balance it out or to allow it to actually occur. So it's not something that is the most natural way of getting it done. It does take some modifications of the molecules or how they enter the solution, instead of it just being extracted and put into a carrier. So for some people, water-soluble products seem to work extremely well. They work very quickly and they address what they need it to address. On that same hand, they seem to not last as long. At least in my experiences working with people, the water-soluble products seem to not last as long in the system. So they are not necessarily going to be as effective for longer-term situations, things that need people that have some imbalances within their system that they want to address, and their system is very, very deficient in cannabinoids. And they're going to find themselves having to take many more servings of the water-soluble product because it tends to go through the system very quickly. It doesn't like to stay in the system, whereas a normal traditional tincture like you see out there, oil-based carrier, those tend to store in the fat. And when we take it, we do have some that absorb right away into the system, and then we swallow the rest down. Through that coating of the oil down the throat into the stomach, although some does get burned up in the stomach, the majority of it does coat the throat and esophagus, absorbing in. It is bonded to a fat, so that fat then gets stored in the system, right? It doesn't get purged out right away, it gets stored. And a lot of people can notice this when they start a serving of a traditional oil-based tincture. They start a particular serving size, it doesn't quite work. A few weeks to a month later, they find it actually begins to work because their body has reached a level of titration that allows the system to be working more effectively. And they might have actually had such an imbalance within the system that it needed a lot more time and a lot more of that level to come up in the system for it to actually be effective. So in conclusion, the water soluble is going to be great for some people, especially people dealing with any sort of tension or any sort of stress that they want to kind of address. That's a really good, something acute, like something that, oh, I don't have necessarily, these feelings all the time, but I do want to address them when I have them. And I don't want to have to be taking something constantly. That was where, in a position where a water soluble is really, really good, because it addresses it quickly, and then it purges out of the system, and it's not necessarily something that the body has to contend with, especially if the person's very healthy, but only having to deal with these stressful mental situations. So there are applications, and whereas if somebody's looking to address a much broader issue within the system, like they want to try to work with the endocannabinoid system to balance a immune condition. And so they need to feed the endocannabinoid system to balance that autoimmune condition, right? So they need a much larger, much more consistent supply of cannabinoids to the body. And so when it stores in our fat, we do get that more balanced effect because it's slowly absorbing into the body rather than quickly and then quickly purging out. So yeah, there's definitely applications, but we have to understand that it's not for everyone, right? Yeah, I see somebody's mentioning that it doesn't last as long, and it doesn't seem to last as long within the system. It also doesn't seem to titrate the same way, which is like to store in the system and become more effective the same way as an oil-based tincture does. So not to say that there isn't room for all of these products. We just have to understand how the person is applying it to their life. Because the most important thing, and it does not, anything beyond this almost does not matter. But the product that you sell somebody, now I'm talking to vendors and distributors and people selling these products, the product that you sell somebody has to be effective for them. It doesn't matter the store they bought it from. It almost doesn't even matter the customer service that they have seen based off of that product. But it has to work. And it has to work for them. If it doesn't work for them, they're not going to come back and continue to use it. Not only do you shoot yourself in the foot, but you've ruined the experience for the customer for future endeavors into our industry. So it is utmost important that the product that you sell that person is one that is going to work for them and what they're attempting to receive from it. And not simply just trying to sell a product. I understand many people's position that they put themselves into this inventory that they now have to move. In the position that they put themselves in a company that is very limited in their offerings, and so now you're bottlenecked in what you are able to do. So I really want you guys to see the deeper understanding of what's going on and make sure that you're providing a product that is effective for the person and what they're attempting to achieve. And if you do not know, you don't feel like you're educated to do this, reach out to me. I definitely can help you out. That's really what I'm here to do. Provide training, online training. I have classes that I'm working on modules, and as well as I can do face-to-face over Zoom training that way with you and your employees, and make sure that we get to the point to where everyone understands the approach, how to sell it, understands your sales process, and is able to create some velocity for your products. And do it in such a way that's effective for people so that people come back consistently over and over and over again. And if you do it right, many people that utilize these products that see no relief throughout their entire life for certain conditions, and somehow find some relief from hemp and CBD products, they will use that product every month for the rest of their life. So if you are create a strong enough brand, a strong enough approach, you can be in that position to be the one they are using for the rest of their life. So this is something that we need to, this is no fad, and it is nothing that we should be pushing on people. It is something that we should be carrying ourselves with integrity and education as we move forward. So I want to thank everyone for their time, for learning and for being part of this industry, because it wouldn't happen without you. And it wouldn't happen without you who are wanting to utilize this product to heal yourself. I hope you gained something from this information, and if you did, definitely leave a comment or a like, or just share it with people that you care about, and get more people the information that we can better be able to navigate the products that are available on the market. So thanks everyone for their time. I hope everyone has a beautiful rest of the afternoon. Wholeness.